Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well out there. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please don't forget to check the description section below, where I have to put more information about whatever it is I'm talking about. So over here to the right, I have various versions of the Amazon Echo, but I do want to talk to you in this video about the Echo Studio, and this model is their best version, or I guess you could say it's supposedly their flagship model of their Echoes as far as sound quality goes. There's a few things about it that I like and a lot of things that I really don't like about it, so I definitely want to talk about all of that in this video, so try to stay with me. So I'm not going to go over all of the technical specs about this Echo, but what you should know is that there is a woofer in here. It's you could I guess if you have a small finger, you could like right there, could touch the foam surround of it just a little bit. And then over here there's a tweeter. And there's a mid-range here. And then over here is a mid-range. And then there's a mid-range on top. Okay, so again, keep that in mind. You got a mid-range, a tweeter, a mid-range, a woofer, and a mid-range. It's going to get interesting, because Amazon has something called Spatial audio that you could turn on or off with the app. And actually, I think I'm going to try to show you that on my phone. Okay, so what you do on your phone is you just go to your Amazon Alexa app, and then you go to your Echo. You go to your Echo Studio, and then you go to audio settings. So let me try to show you what this looks like here. So you go to your device settings, and at the top where it says audio settings, you go there. So you go to audio settings, and now over here I had to make some adjustments to try to get it to sound better, and it's really set for 2-channel audio like that. So have a look, and at the bottom there's a little toggle for on or off for Amazon Spatial audio. Okay, so as you can see, the bass is turned up maybe about a +4 or so, or a +3 on this. The mid-range is turned down about -2, and the treble's up about +2. Now for stereo spatial enhancement, you just actually I can't do it because it's unplugged, so it's not sending the signal over to the Echo Studio. But okay, with that said, before I start to get too off topic with that, what I do want to talk about is, first of all, what is this good at? Now, I do have experience with the newest generation of the Echo Ball, as I call it. This is the newest generation of the Echo Studio, and this is one of the older ones. I call it the Echo Tube. I don't know what the exact name of it is again. And then there was the basic Echo, which was like this. Now, if you do want to improve the sound on these things, get a little bit of foam or a little bit of the felt strips or some kind of stick-on rubber or whatever it is, and just stick it on the bottom, and it'll definitely improve the bass and the sound a bit. I did that with this as well. Actually, this one's connected by the cord, so you probably can't see it too well, but I don't even need the cord. I'm already used to now. So the good about the Echo Studio. The Echo Studio, I think, sounds good with recordings that are specifically made for the spatial audio. Okay. Soon as you connect this and you turn it on, Amazon starts playing you tracks of songs that have spatial audio, or whatever they call it. So with that said, those recordings sound good, but a lot of it has to do with the placement with this as well, with those recordings. So because of how the drivers are set up on this, you have to keep in mind that your tweeter is here. So your tweeter is firing forward and it's spreading out. So now if you're off to the side, so let me come right back with something. Okay, I got just what I need. A nutcracker. So let's just say, let's move this back, and because your tweeter is here, now if you're like kind of over here listening to it, it's going to sound, it's going to sound okay, but not quite as good as if you're somewhere over here listening to it. All right. Now, if you're off to the side, forget it. This is where it becomes a nightmare. So basically, if you have a large room and you're standing over here somewhere, or you're standing over here somewhere, this is where it's going to sound really bad with the spatial audio. Now again, spatial audio I'm talking about with recordings that are made for spatial audio. If it was spatial audio with 2-channel audio tracks that are not made for it, most of those tracks I find get completely wrecked by the spatial audio. So then what you have to do is you have to turn off spatial audio if you're probably going to be around here or over here. But when you turn off spatial audio, this tweeter shuts off. And this mid-range shuts off. So now you have a mid-range and a mid-range playing your music. So if you take your hand just to test it and you turn on spatial audio and you go like this, you'll hear that this tweeter's on, you'll hear this mid-range is on, and you'll still hear sound. Actually, am I covering this too much? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to have your spatial audio turned on with your 2-channel music, and then go like this, and you'll still hear sound coming out of the tweeter and out of the mid-range. Now, if you turn off your spatial audio and you go like this, you have like no sound. You could hear that you're completely muzzling your sound. So, with that said, the drivers are firing out this way. So now, if you're standing over here, you're really only hearing the right channel of your 2-channel audio. And just like if you're standing over here, now you're hearing the left channel of your 2-channel audio. Okay, so it's better than listening to it with the spatial audio turned on with 2-channel audio, because with the spatial audio turned on, typically your voices are coming out of this tweeter. It's kind of like a home theater receiver when you turn on one of the surround modes that turn 2-channel audio into multi-channel, but not nearly as good. So what happens is then, because your voice is coming out of here, okay, when you're here, again, it's just terrible. Now, when your 2-channel audio is turned off and you're listening to music, I feel like, when your 2-channel audio is turned on, okay, 2-channel audio, so your spatial audio is turned off, and you're listening to music, the music does not sound as good because the tweeter is turned off. So it sounds like a mid-range fest. Like this thing is like a mid-range box, like, 300 hertz, 400 hertz. It is so strong in the mid-range, it's ridiculous, with the spatial audio turned off and this tweeter's off. Okay, so that's that's kind of disappointing. And also too, because again, these are mid-range drivers, the cymbals with music, whether it's jazz or rock music or metal, the cymbals on most of it sound terrible. They sound slurred. They sound like they're just like dragging, like a cymbal is like almost like AM radio sound to the cymbals. The cymbals only sound decent when the spatial audio is turned on and that tweeter is activated. Okay, but what's the other problem with the spatial audio turned on with the tweeter activated? Many times with many recordings, those guitars get overemphasized. So you have like the guitars will be blaring out of the sides, okay? And sometimes the voice will disappear. Like the voice is like, with some of the recordings I listened to, like the voice was like so hard to hear. And if I was standing over here, then it was like all this like ridiculously overemphasized guitar sounds, okay? Sometimes the bass would become like, the bass isn't very good on this thing to begin with. The bass is much better on this, but that's going to be a whole separate video. But, the bass is the bass is very average. It's a very like a muddy type of bass sound, which is why on the app you can't really turn up the bass. You can't go to like max. If you do like a +2 or a +4, that's pretty much it, because then it's just going to sound muddy. The bass is not very good on this thing. Back to the back to the sound issues with the spatial audio turned on. So again, the vocals might disappear. Now, what's coming out of the sides, okay? It sounds like, the only way that I could really explain it is if you've ever owned a home theater receiver, like one of the early ones when 2-channel Dolby Surround first came out in the earlier days of home theater receiver. I had a JVC receiver, and it was 80 watts to the front channel, so 80 watts to the left, 80 watts to the right for 2-channel audio. And the rear 2 speakers were, I think it was like 15 or 20 watts to the rear 2. But if you remember the original Dolby Surround from the first Star Wars movie back in 1970, what was it, 70 something? Anyway, I'm feeling old. It was a mono sound coming out of those 2 speakers. So it was a matrix sound that was mono, but it was only like a mid-range sound. It wasn't like, you wouldn't hear like nice clear treble, really deep bass. It was kind of just like this mid-range sound. That's what sounds like is shooting out of the sides with the spatial audio turned on. So for music, this thing is very, very hard to recommend. Now, what can you do about it to maybe improve it? If you already own it and you haven't really put much thought into it, maybe you love it, and that's great. If you love it, that's wonderful. But if you're not so happy with it, then you really have to place it somewhere that's better and set it to 2-channel audio, which would be with the spatial audio turned off. Now, if Amazon would make an all-channel stereo, like home theater receivers have all speakers stereo or all-channel stereo, that would really help this out a lot. But it doesn't have a mode like that. Or if it had like a mono music mode, like some home theater receivers have, and every speaker sends out mono audio, that would also be good as well, because then anywhere you put this in the room, you would still be hearing everything. So you wouldn't have to worry about, your voice, the vocals are vanishing. The voices are disappearing, or the guitars are so horribly strong, or the cymbals sound like and like AM radio, like slurring sounds coming out of them. That would really improve things a lot. So if somebody from Amazon is watching this video and you have something to do with this, an all-channel stereo mode would be fantastic, all-channel mono mode, and something better than the bass, treble, mid-range that the app offers to adjust the sound on this. Something more like a 5-band EQ would be logical. Something where you could also see the frequencies that you're increasing, because it's obvious that the treble, the mid-range, and the bass, it's not very good for this, or really any of them. It's not very good for. Okay, so what can you do to improve the sound when you're listening to it with the spatial audio turned off, which is going to make it 2-channel? So really, because the sound is shooting out of these 2 speakers over here, it's firing out of the sides. It's shooting out this way and this way. You really need something like this. Like, I don't know if you could see, I'm cupping my hands, and let me bring this in. Maybe that'll help a little bit. So basically what you want to do is you'd want to place this next to things that could potentially send the sound this way, okay? And I tried it. I put my hands here. I had this on a pretty low volume. And I put my hands here, and it improved the sound a lot. It just sounds a lot better. So if potentially you could put this somewhere where there's maybe some things on a shelf that you could put like over here and here, so the sound's going to bounce off of them, or put this on a bookshelf. It sounds better on a bookshelf, or in some kind of like a cabinet type of location, which I'm going to show you in like a minute, or maybe a few minutes. that would sound a lot better as well. I think that this unit sounds better closer to the floor than it does up high. It doesn't have to be on the floor, because then you're really losing all of the the upper range more so. But if you did have this close to the floor in like a cabinet or something, a type of enclosure, it wouldn't be so bad. Okay, so I happen to have this TV stand thing from IKEA that I happen to really love because of the height of it. I don't really know if it's actually a TV stand, but I do tend to use it for TVs just because it's nice and high. But anyway, if you were to put the Echo in something like this, potentially also too if you have like a desk, and you have something like this where there's some kind of shelves and whatever, this is a really good location, because the the two mid-range drivers, when the spatial audio is turned off, they're hitting the sides right away. So when they're hitting the sides, your audio is going to be coming out the front. So you don't have to worry about, the left side, the right side, where you're standing. And then also too, because the back is open, it's going to come out and hit the wall. The other thing that you can do in some sort of like situation setup like this is, if you want to, it's not going to look nice because in the back here is where the power cord goes. But if you point this with the tweeter that was in the front facing the wall, I happen to enjoy it with music more than with it pointing towards the front, because it's hitting the wall and then it's kind of it's making the sound spread out wider in some locations than it would with the tweeter, pointing to the front and just coming out this way. So, that's definitely something to consider. I think that when Amazon made this, they should have put the drivers more like here and here. I think here and here would have been much better. Or like say, maybe the tweeter is still here, but then angle these two drivers, more here and here, so that it would come out more forward. I think that would be the better option, especially because, again, there's no all-channel stereo, all-speaker stereo, mono mode, all-speaker mono mode. If they had that, that would improve things a lot. But I do think that they still need to do something about the two drivers on the side that are mid-range drivers. I think that those would have been better if they would have been tweeters, because I just think it would have sounded better than those mid-range. And maybe put the mid-range over here. Maybe this would have been a mid-range, this would have been a mid-range, and these would have been somehow tweeters, pointing out this way. The other problem with this is when it comes to the volume. It does not sound good at a low volume. So most of these other Echoes, sound pretty consistent throughout the volume range. That's not the case here. You need to say to it, Alexa volume 4 or Alexa volume 5 for it to really start to sound good. But at that point, it's going to be too loud for many people. I think probably most people are going to listen to this with, Alexa volume 2 or 3. And when you do, there's like no sound, like the high end just completely disappears, and it just becomes like a mid-range box. And that's a big issue with this. Now I do realize that it has something with the Dolby Atmos or whatever the processing is in here with the spatial audio or whatever, but there's something where it's always listening with the microphone and it's making adjustments to improve the sound. I don't know if that has something to do with it, because I feel like there's times when I move it and I'm expecting it to sound better and it's just not. I feel like there's something like magically against me with this, particular Echo. And, maybe turning off the microphone would help. I didn't try it. I could try it, but I didn't. So, that might be something to consider as well. I think that it's nice, though, because it's portable. I think that the fact that it's portable, that you could plug it into, like, different locations, I think that might be nice, like taking it inside of, like, say, garage. If you're going to go outside and do some work in your garage, maybe you grab it and you take it outside. That might be nice. Because it is nice that it has the other features that come with Echo, like the Echo Guard and stuff like that. But as far as sound quality, this is really a tough one to recommend. I don't enjoy it with listening to music. Anyway, I do hope that you found this helpful, or at least somewhat helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. And check out my review of all the Amazon Echoes. That is in a separate video, and I'll give you my honest opinion of them